The sun was high, casting a bright glow over the rows of shiny cars at the luxury dealership. A young black teenager walked in, his eyes wide with excitement. He had saved up for months, doing odd jobs after school, and today, he wanted to see if he could finally afford his dream car, a used but well-kept sedan. The moment he stepped inside, the atmosphere shifted. The salesman, dressed in crisp suits, glanced at him, then exchanged looks. One of them, a tall man with a slick-back haircut, approached with a smirk. "Can I help you, kid?" he asked, his tone dripping with condescension. The boy straightened his shoulders. "Yes, sir. I'm interested in that car outside, the blue one. Could you tell me more about it?" The salesman chuckled, shaking his head. "That one? Listen, maybe you should check somewhere else. This isn't a place for window shopping." The boy frowned. "I have money saved up. I just want to know the price and if I can test drive it." Another salesman nearby laughed. "Test drive? Kid, do you even have a license?" The boy's face burned, but he kept his voice steady. "Yes, I do. I just want to buy a car." The first salesman sighed dramatically. "Look, we don't do charity here. Come back when you're serious." The boy clenched his fists but didn't argue. He turned and walked out, the sound of laughter following him. His heart pounded, not from anger, but from frustration. He knew exactly why they had treated him that way. That evening, he sat at the kitchen table, pushing his food around his plate. His mother, a woman with sharp eyes and a calm demeanor, noticed immediately. "What's wrong?" she asked. He hesitated, then told her everything, the dismissive looks, the mocking tone, the way they had assumed he couldn't afford anything. His mother listened quietly, her expression unreadable. When he finished, she simply nodded. "Eat your food," she said. "We'll handle this tomorrow." The next morning, a sleek black Rolls-Royce pulled up in front of the same dealership. The doors opened, and out stepped the boy's mother, dressed in an elegant pantsuit, her posture radiating confidence. The boy followed, his chin held high this time. The same salesman from yesterday froze mid-conversation. The one who had mocked the boy paled as he recognized him. The mother walked straight to him, her voice smooth but firm. "Good morning. My son was here yesterday. He wanted to buy a car." I believe there was some confusion. The salesman stammered, "Ma'am, we didn't realize." She cut him off with a raised hand. "No need for explanations. Let's see what you have." The boy watched as the same men who had laughed at him now tripped over themselves to assist. His mother didn't raise her voice, didn't make a scene, but her presence alone was enough to turn the tables. And the best part? She wasn't just there to embarrass them. She was there to teach her son a lesson, one about respect, dignity, and the power of self-worth. The dealership, usually buzzing with the hum of negotiations and polished sales pitches, had gone eerily quiet. All eyes were fixed on the boy and his mother as they stood in the center of the showroom. The same salesman who had dismissed the teenager the day before was now sweating under his stiff collar, his forced smile twitching at the corners. The boy's mother didn't raise her voice. She didn't have to. Every word she spoke was deliberate, calm, and carried an unshakable authority. "You mentioned my son wasn't serious about buying a car," she said, tilting her head slightly. "I'd like to understand why." The salesman swallowed hard. "Ma'am, it was just a misunderstanding. We get a lot of lookers, you know. Sometimes it's hard to tell who's really interested." The boy clenched his jaw but stayed silent. He watched as his mother's sharp eyes scanned the room before landing back on the salesman. "Interesting," she said. "Because my son told you he had money saved. He asked for details. He even requested a test drive." She paused. "Yet you assumed he wasn't serious. Why is that?" The question hung in the air like a heavy fog. The other salesman shifted uncomfortably, suddenly finding the floor or their shoes very interesting. The salesman stammered, I just thought. You thought wrong, she cut in smoothly. Then, without waiting for a reply, she turned to her son. Which car were you interested in, sweetheart? The boy pointed toward the blue sedan near the window, the same one he had asked about the day before. His mother nodded and walked toward it, her heels clicking against the polished floor. The salesman scrambled to follow. She ran a hand over the hood, inspecting it with the practiced eye of someone who knew cars. How much? The salesman hesitated, then named a price, higher than the listed one the boy had seen online. His mother didn't react. Instead, she turned to her son. Do you still want this one? The boy hesitated. Yesterday, it had been his dream car. But now, after everything, it didn't feel the same. He glanced at the salesman, who was watching him with nervous eyes, then back at his mother. Actually, he said slowly, I think I'd like to see something else. A flicker of pride crossed his mother's face. She nodded. Then let's look around. As they walked through the dealership, the atmosphere had completely changed. Salesmen who had ignored the boy yesterday now rushed to open doors, offer water, and list features of the most expensive models. But the boy wasn't looking at the cars anymore, he was watching his mother, learning a lesson far more valuable than any vehicle. Because this wasn't just about buying a car. It was about respect. The boy followed his mother as she strolled through the dealership, her sharp eyes taking in every detail, the overpriced luxury sedans, the nervous glances from the staff, the way the manager had suddenly appeared from his office, smoothing his tie as he hurried toward them. Ma'am, the manager said, flashing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. I hear you're interested in one of our vehicles. Let me personally assist you. The boy's mother didn't smile back. We're just browsing, she said coolly. Unless you'd like to explain why my son was turned away yesterday for no reason. The manager's face tightened. He shot a glare at the salesman from before, who suddenly found the ceiling fascinating. There must have been a mistake, the manager said quickly. We value every customer here. The boy almost laughed. Every customer? Then why had they treated him like he didn't belong? His mother didn't press further. Instead, she stopped in front of a sleek, high-end sports car, one that cost more than most houses. She turned to her son. What do you think of this one? The boy blinked. It's nice. The manager perked up. An excellent choice. This model has a custom engine, premium leather. We'll take it for a test drive, his mother interrupted. The manager hesitated. Normally we require a credit check first. She pulled out a black credit card and held it between two fingers. Will this do? The manager's mouth opened, then closed. He snatched the card like it might disappear. Right this way. As they waited for the paperwork, the boy leaned closer to his mother. We're not really buying this, are we? She gave him a small, knowing smile. Do you want it? He looked at the flashy car, then back at the salesman scrambling to impress them. Yesterday, they had treated him like he was nothing. Today, they were falling over themselves. No, he said finally. I don't want anything from this place. His mother nodded, satisfied. Good. Then let's see how far they'll go. When the manager returned, he was practically sweating. Everything's ready. Just sign here, and the car is yours. The boy's mother took the pen, twirling it thoughtfully. Before we do, I have a question. Anything, the manager said eagerly. She tilted her head. What's your return policy? The manager blinked. Return policy? Yes. If my son drives this car for a day and decides he doesn't like it, can he bring it back? The manager's smile faltered. Well, technically, once the paperwork is signed. So, no? She said, raising an eyebrow. Then I think we'll pass. The manager's face turned red. But, we prepared everything. She stood, smoothing her jacket. And yet, yesterday, you couldn't even give my son 5 minutes of your time. She turned to her son. Ready to go? The boy stood, hiding a smirk as the manager sputtered behind them. They walked out, past the blue sedan he had originally wanted, past the stunned salesman, past the Rolls-Royce still parked prominently out front. As they reached the car, his mother finally spoke again. Remember this. Money isn't power. Respect is. And you don't have to buy it from anyone. The boy nodded, understanding dawning. This wasn't about revenge. It was about knowing his worth. The moment they pulled away from the dealership, the boy expected his mother to drive straight home. Instead, she took a turn toward the city's business district. You hungry? She asked casually, as if they hadn't just left a room full of panicked car salesmen behind. The boy frowned. Aren't we going back? Not yet, she said, a hint of amusement in her voice. We have one more stop. 20 minutes later, they pulled up to a modern high-rise with a gleaming glass exterior. A sign out front read, Lux Auto Gallery, PRE-owned and custom luxury vehicles. The boy hesitated. Another dealership? His mother shut off the engine. A better one. As they walked in, the difference was immediate. The showroom was quieter, more refined, no pushy salesman, no loud chatter. A woman in a sharp blazer looked up from her desk and smiled warmly. Welcome. How can I help you today? No judgment in her eyes. No once-over to assess their worth. Just genuine courtesy. The boy's mother returned the smile. My son's looking for his first car. Something reliable, but with a little style. The woman, her name tag read Danielle, nodded. I've got a few great options. What's your budget? The boy opened his mouth, but his mother gently touched his shoulder. Let's see what you have first. For the next hour, Danielle showed them a variety of cars, not just the most expensive ones, but solid, well-maintained vehicles at different price points. She answered every question patiently, even when the boy admitted he didn't know much about engines. At one point, while his mother stepped away to take a call, Danielle leaned against a car and chuckled. So, what really brought you here? Most first-time buyers don't start at a place like this. The boy hesitated, then told her about the previous dealership, the laughter, the dismissive comments. Danielle's smile faded. Let me guess. Franklin Motors? He blinked. How'd you know? She rolled her eyes. They've got a reputation. Treat anyone under 30 like they're wasting their time. She paused. But you know what's funny? Half their sales staff used to work here. We fired them for being too pushy. The boy stared at her. Seriously? Dead serious. Danielle crossed her arms. This business isn't about ripping people off. It's about finding the right car for the right person. She grinned. And honestly? I'd rather sell one honest car to a kid like you than 10 overpriced junkers to rich snobs. Something in the boy's chest loosened. For the first time all day, he felt seen. When his mother returned, he was sitting in the driver's seat of a sleek, dark gray coupe, used, but in perfect condition. The price was fair. The mileage was low. And when he turned the key for the test drive, the engine purred like it was made just for him. His mother studied his face, then nodded to Danielle. We'll take it. Danielle grinned. Excellent choice. As they finalized the paperwork, the boy noticed something odd. His mother wasn't negotiating. No haggling, no demands. She paid the listed price without hesitation. Later, as they walked to his car, he finally asked. "You didn't even try to talk her down." "Why?" His mother unlocked the doors with a click. "Because some things are worth the full price. Respect. Honesty." She met his eyes. "You are." The boy swallowed hard. For the first time in his life, he understood what value really meant. The boy gripped the steering wheel of his new car, the engine humming smoothly beneath him as he pulled into his neighborhood. For the first time, he understood why people love driving: the freedom, the control, the quiet thrill of knowing this machine was his. His mother's phone buzzed non-stop in the passenger seat. She ignored most calls, but when a particular number flashed, she sighed and answered. "Yes?" "No, we're not interested." "No, not even if it's free." She hung up, rolling her eyes. "Franklin Motors?" the boy guessed. "Third call today," she said dryly. "They're offering VIP discounts now." He laughed, but it faded as they turned onto their street. A familiar black SUV was parked near their house, one he recognized from Lux Auto Gallery. Danielle leaned against the hood, arms crossed. When they pulled up, she pushed off and walked over. "Sorry to ambush you," she said, "but I've got a proposition." Inside, over glasses of lemonade, Danielle got straight to the point. "That stunt you pulled at Franklin Motors?" She grinned. "Best thing that's happened to this industry in years." Their Google reviews are flooded with people calling them out for discrimination. The boy blinked. "How?" "We didn't even post anything." "Security footage leaked," Danielle said. "Someone filmed the whole thing, you walking in yesterday, getting laughed at, then rolling up today in a Rolls." She pulled out her phone, showing a viral video titled "Dealership Humiliates Teen, Then His Mom Shows Up." Views, 2.7 million. The boy's stomach dropped. "That's not what we wanted." His mother, however, studied Danielle carefully. "You didn't come here to gossip. What's the proposition?" Danielle set her glass down. "Lux Auto wants to hire your son." Silence. The boy nearly choked. "What?" "Not as a salesman," Danielle clarified. "As our new client relations consultant. You'd visit dealerships anonymously, document your experiences, and help us train staff to avoid bias." She leaned forward. "Pays good. And you'd get to drive a lot of cars." The boy looked at his mother. Her face was unreadable. "Why him?" she asked. Danielle's smile faded. "Because in this business, the only people who really know how customers get treated are the ones being judged the second they walk in." She nodded at the boy. "And he's got the instincts to fix it." Later, after Danielle left, the boy sat on the porch steps, turning the offer over in his mind. His mother joined him, handing him a fresh lemonade. "You don't have to decide tonight," she said. He swirled the ice cubes. "It's not about the money." "I know." He looked up. "Would you be mad if I said yes?" His mother's eyes softened. "The only thing that would make me mad is if you let what happened at Franklin Motors make you bitter." She tapped his chest lightly. "This? Turning it into something good? That's how you win." A car drove past, bass thumping. The boy watched it go, then pulled out his phone and opened the viral video. Scrolling through comments. "This happens every time I go car shopping. Same thing happened to my little brother last year. We need to boycott these places." He closed the app. Maybe, just maybe, he could do more than just boycott. The boy arrived at Lux Auto Gallery early Monday morning, his stomach fluttering. The showroom was quiet, the polished floors gleaming under soft sunrise light. Danielle waited by a conference room, tossing him a lanyard with a grin. "Welcome to the team, rookie." The badge read, J. Carter, client experience specialist. He frowned. This isn't my name. Stage name, Danielle said, leading him inside where 3 staff members sat with tablets. Franklin Motors isn't stupid, they'll be watching for you now. So we rebrand you. She tossed a folder on the table. Here's your first assignment, Prestige Motors in Midtown. They've got 3 discrimination complaints this quarter. Your job is to walk in as a regular kid and document everything. One of the staff handed him a slim button camera disguised as a pen. Just clip it on your pocket. We'll monitor live. The boy's fingers trembled slightly as he fastened it. This wasn't just about buying a car anymore. He was about to walk into a lion's den, on purpose. Prestige Motors looked even fancier than Franklin, marble floors, chandeliers, salesmen in tailored suits eyeing every customer like potential commissions. The boy forced himself to slouch slightly as he entered, hands in his hoodie pockets. Almost immediately, a salesman with slicked-back hair approached. Help you find something, champ? The boy kept his voice young, eager. Yeah, I wanna see what you got under 20 grand. The salesman's smile didn't reach his eyes. You might have better luck at a different kind of lot. Got cash though, the boy pressed, patting his pocket. That got attention. 2 other salesmen drifted closer. Cash changes things, the first salesman said smoothly. Let me show you our pre-owned section. They led him not to the shiny front row cars, but to a dim back corner where older models sat. The boy noted how they avoided giving him brochures, how they quoted prices $3,000 higher than the online listings. Then, as he pretended to examine a scratched sedan, he heard it. Kid, no offense, but you seem inexperienced. The salesman leaned in. Why don't you bring your dad next time? We'll give him the real deals. The boy's fingers brushed the camera pen. Got you. Back at Lux Auto, the team reviewed footage with growing anger. They're using the same playbook as Franklin, Danielle muttered. Steer young buyers to overpriced junk, then pressure them into insane financing. The boy watched his own footage silently. He'd known what would happen. But seeing it play out so predictably, the condescension, the bait-and-switch, made his skin prickle. Danielle noticed his expression. This get to you? Yeah, he admitted. Because it's not about cars. It's about who they think deserves nice things. Before Danielle could respond, her phone rang. She listened, then slowly set it down. Franklin Motors just fired their entire sales staff. And their GM wants to meet with you. The room went still. The boy's throat tightened. Why? Danielle's eyes gleamed. Because that viral video sparked a boycott. Their sales dropped 60% overnight. She leaned forward. They're desperate. And desperate people make mistakes. The Franklin Motors meeting room reeked of stale coffee and panic. The general manager, a red-faced man named Whitaker, sweated through his dress shirt as he slid a contract across the table. We want to hire you as a diversity consultant, he said stiffly. Substantial salary. Company car. The boy didn't touch the papers. Why? Whitaker's eye twitched. The negative publicity has been challenging. Danielle, sitting beside the boy, smirked. You mean getting exposed for discrimination killed your business? Whitaker ignored her, focusing on the boy. This is an opportunity to create real change from the inside. The boy studied the contract. The money was insane. The benefits unreal. But then he noticed Clause 17, consultant agrees not to disclose any past or present experiences at Franklin Motors publicly. He pushed it back. So let me get this straight, he said slowly. You don't actually want to change. You just want to look like you're changing, by paying me to stay quiet. Whitaker's smile cracked. That's not. The boy stood. "I'll pass." As they walked out, Danielle squeezed his shoulder. "You know they'll just hire some other kid to whitewash this, right?" "Yeah," the boy said. "But it won't work." Because he'd just realized something powerful: some battles weren't fought with money or contracts. They were fought by walking away. The boy thought the worst was over. Then the news vans arrived. A reporter from Channel 6 intercepted him as he walked out of Lux Auto the next evening, shoving a microphone in his face. "Care to comment on Franklin Motors' alleged hush money offer?" Behind her, a camera light blinded him. His throat locked. He'd never been on TV before, never been the story instead of just the kid filming it. Danielle materialized at his side, steering him away. "No comment right now." But it was too late. By morning, the clip aired everywhere: teen rejects six-figure deal after discrimination scandal. His phone exploded with messages, some supportive, others accusing him of playing the race card. Strangers recognized him at gas stations. A talk radio host mocked his voice on air. The boy stopped checking social media after someone posted his school's name in the comments. At Lux Auto's emergency meeting, Danielle paced with her phone glued to her ear. "We need damage control. The Prestige Motors footage drops tomorrow, but now the narrative's getting twisted." The boy hunched in his chair, fingers knotted together. "Maybe I should just quit." "Quit?" Danielle whirled on him. "They want you to quit. That's how this works. They make speaking up so painful that people shut up instead." His mother, unusually quiet in the corner, finally spoke. "There's another option." All eyes turned to her. "Go bigger." 2 days later, the boy sat stiffly in a studio under hot lights, prepping for a live interview on Urban Business Today, the most-watched black entrepreneurship show in the state. The host, a sharp-eyed woman named Lisa Holloway, studied him during commercial break. "Nervous?" He wiped sweaty palms on his slacks. "Never done this before." Lisa smiled. "Just tell the truth. That scares corrupt people more than any camera." When the red light blinked on, Lisa opened with, "You've become the face of systemic discrimination in auto sales. What do you want people to take away from your story?" The boy's scripted answers flew out of his head. So he said what he'd been burning to say since day one. That it's not about one bad dealership. It's about every time someone assumes a black kid can't afford nice things, or doesn't belong where nice things are sold. His voice steadied. "And I'm not special, this happens to people every day who don't have billionaire moms or viral videos." Lisa leaned in. "What's next, then?" He took a breath. "We're launching a nonprofit. Fair Auto Initiative. Secret shoppers documenting discrimination, free legal help for victims, training for ethical dealers." He glanced at Danielle in the wings. "And we already have our first corporate partner." The camera cut to Lux Auto's CEO walking on stage to shake his hand, live on air, with no backing out now. After the interview, as crew members congratulated him, his mother pulled him aside. "Proud of you," she murmured. "But it'll get harder from here." He knew. There'd be lawsuits. Trolls. Maybe even threats. But for the first time, he saw the bigger picture. This was never just about a car. It was about making sure the next kid like him wouldn't need a Rolls-Royce moment to be taken seriously. 1 year later. The boy adjusted his tie in the courthouse bathroom mirror, his reflection older and wearier than the teenager who'd first walked into that dealership. Today, Fair Auto Initiative versus Franklin Motors would make history, the first class action lawsuit over systemic discrimination in auto sales. His phone buzzed with an encrypted message. "Check your email. They're lying under oath." Attached were internal Franklin Motors memos with phrases like target demographic filtering and minimum credit score requirements for urban branches. The last page made his stomach drop. a list of dealerships instructed to limit test drives for high-risk profiles. Dated 6 days after they'd supposedly reformed. Danielle burst in, her heels clicking sharply. They just perjured themselves on stand. You ready? He showed her the email. Her face hardened. This changes everything. The courtroom air was thick with tension. Franklin Motors lawyers argued their training programs had eradicated past biases. Then the boy took the stand. The defense attorney smirked. Isn't it true your nonprofit profits from these discrimination claims? Before he could answer, his lawyer interrupted. Your Honor, new evidence. As the judge reviewed the documents, the Franklin Motors CEO visibly paled. The boy locked eyes with him and spoke quietly. You never stopped. You just got sneakier. The ruling came swiftly, $4.2 million in damages, court-ordered oversight, and mandatory adoption of Fair Auto's training program across all 12 Franklin locations. Reporters swarmed outside. The boy ignored their shouted questions until one cut through. Was it worth it? He turned. Ask me when my little cousin can buy a car without bringing a lawyer. Epilogue. 3 months later, the boy stood in Lux Auto's renovated training center, watching new hires, including 2 former Franklin salespeople, role-play scenarios with diverse customers. Danielle handed him a newspaper. Franklin Motors had just fired their entire executive team. Feels good, huh? He studied the grainy photo of his younger self in that viral video. The anger had faded, replaced by something steadier, purpose. Nah, he said finally. It just feels fair. And for the first time in automotive history, fair was finally enough.